Alberta Primetime with Michael Higgins.
Welcome to Alberta Primetime. Ahead tonight, our politics panel on separatist sentiment as the federal election draws to a close. But first, setting a tone on trade.
We're taking a historic step forward to protect and unify our country, to build up Canada's economy by tearing down internal trade barriers.
In response to chaos created by Trump tariffs, Ontario, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick are the first of the provinces to partner on an agreement aimed at removing trade barriers while allowing goods and workers to move more freely between their jurisdictions. Joining us now, Doug Griffiths, President and CEO of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce. Doug, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Michael.
All right. What do you see Ontario, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick achieving in signing that memorandum of understanding? How much weight do you see their agreement ultimately carrying?
Well, I think it's pretty significant, even if it's not immediate practical financial spinoffs. The mindset change, the shift that this is going to create across Canada, I think is incredibly important. I was a bit worried that, if the Trump tariffs disappeared, that we go back to business as usual, but we can't afford that. We need a constant mindset and to be vigilant that these interprovincial trade barriers are impacting the Canadian economy to significant negative impacts, and we need to make some adjustments. So this is a great first step, and I hope it's a mindset shift.
Okay, so a first step. Now, Alberta wasn't at the table with those provinces. Could it or should it have been?
Well, I think this isn't going to evolve all the way across the country overnight. I think Premier Smith's calls to the Premier of Quebec are a great first step. And I think, as they work on this down east, we can work on this across the west. So Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba and BC. And then we can have a coming together. So hopefully, instead of trying to deal with 10 or 13 jurisdictions with different rules and regulations impeding free trade, we wind up maybe with two systems that can then merge more successfully into one system. So every bit of the step is going to happen, and I hope we're working on this in the West.
So you maybe see Alberta partnering in a similar fashion with the other prairie provinces, BC included in that as well?
I do. Former Premier Stelmach led the charge with the New West partnership for Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba to eliminate some of those trade barriers because he saw how important that was. And I think that will continue to evolve.
Whether it's political or otherwise, from your standpoint in representing the business community, how much headway has been made in Alberta on the removal of trade barriers since the chaos of the Trump tariffs started blowing up?
Well, there's been some headway. I mean, there's been, like I said, conversations between the Premier of Quebec and our Premier. I know that the premiers across the Western provinces have been having conversations. It's never going to be quite enough because we have a lot of progress to make. We've got 2 generations worth of evolved regulations that are impeding our ability to move goods from one province to the other. And I would love to see it all done overnight. As long as we're being vigilant and we're making great progress, we don't make that the enemy of great. But if we become complacent again, as I've said, we've got 3.5 more years of chaos under the current president of the United States, and if we don't make progress, then 6 months from now, if we're back in this situation, it will be our fault, not theirs.
How do you see the outcome of the federal election playing into all of this and the expediency of how this evolves?
Yeah, I've said this before, and whoever wins and becomes the next prime minister and their party, their cabinet, their caucus, this has got to be a top priority. Getting rid of those interprovincial trade barriers can add hundreds of millions of dollars to our economy, a couple $100 million, change our GDP, grow it by 3.5% to 4%. We're sitting on our own restrictions, on our own restricted economy because of these interprovincial trade barriers. And so whoever becomes prime minister needs to make this a top priority going forward until it gets resolved, so that we can improve our productivity and achieve, the economic success that we deserve in this country.
On that point of expediency, Nova Scotia's Premier Tim Houston told the media during that signing ceremony, the goal is full free trade across Canada by Canada Day. How realistic a goal is that?
Well, I think that's probably not possible, but a noble goal nonetheless. I would love to see so many of our restrictions reduced or eliminated. You know, I like to point out that when Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba were first discussing free trade, after all the evaluations on where the limitations were, they came back and said that they could finally agree on what shade of yellow paint should be on the borders of the highway. It was that ridiculous. So it's a noble goal, but frankly, these are not life and death situations. These are just egos and whose rules are going to dominate. And I think we can fix those if all the provinces, drop it has to be my way or I'm not going to cooperate, and just find a system that works, knowing that we're probably going to have to evolve it and change it, just like we always do with new regulations for generations to come. But we need a system that makes sure that we can eliminate the interprovincial trade barriers. And by Canada Day, that would be a fantastic achievement.
All right. We'll have to leave it there for time. Doug, good to see you, sir. Thank you kindly.
Good to see you too, Michael. Thank you.
Doug Griffiths is President and CEO of the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce.